Hey YouTube, it's the Red Pillar of the Blue here. Today I want to do a video on priorities when it comes to prepping. Um, I think it's important that you set some priorities, especially if you're a beginner. Even if you've been doing it for 5 years, um, it helps you keep on track. I know it has for me. Um, and I know when you start prepping, it's very overwhelming. It was for me, and I know it is for a lot of other people. Um, but sitting down and writing a list of priorities is very important because you can get sidetracked very easily with you know other other parts of prepping and lose focus on other aspects of prepping like water and food when you're just prepping, buying thousands of candles because you feel like having light is important, which is important, but not before food and water. um but let's get started. I think priorities. These are my this is like my list that I feel is a good when it comes to like the priorities. Uh, I don't even know how to say that. Like just my list of in order of what I think is important. But first and foremost, water and ways to filter water are very important because 3 days without water and you're dead from dehydration. Especially if you're running around and you're scavenging and you know or you're fighting people off, you're going to become dehydrated a lot quicker. And it's important to store water. And the rule of thumb is a gallon of water a day per person, which I think is fair because that gallon includes washing and brushing your teeth and drinking and cooking. Um, so a gallon of water a day per person. But what do you do when you run out of water? You're going to need a water filter to filter out all the viruses and bacteria in the water that from a water source that you find nearby, maybe, or you go out and find. Um, you can take a chance if you want, but it's not very smart, and it's just a lot easier to go out and buy a water filter. I bought the Sawyer water filter, the Sawyer Mini, for $20, and that filters up to 100,000 gallons. And I did a little bit of research on it before I got it, and it's pretty credible. And it's been used, and I've used it a couple times, and it works very well. And $20 for 100,000 gallons of water, that's a no-brainer. I mean, I plan on picking up at least three or four more, uh, especially if there's a disaster. 100,000 gallons at even 2-3 gallons a day per person. If you buy one of these for just one person, that'll last them two lifetimes. Um, so I plan on buying like three or four more of these at least, and they can be used as barter, and those are would be priceless practically. Actually, those probably would be priceless. Um, anyway, next on my list is food because 3 weeks without food and you die of starvation. Um, I'm gonna do another video on my stored food and what I do and what I like to do and my opinions on why I do it. But 3 weeks without food and you're dead. And after a week, you're gonna be very hungry and very weak. So having a very uh, what's the word? I guess ample amount of stored food is a must. In this list is just my opinion. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is the way that you have to do your list. But next is for me, it's kind of like a toss up between medical supplies and guns and ammo. Um, Medical supplies are going to be priceless as well. Over the counter medications, band aids, hydrogen peroxide, because if you get one cut, that can get infected. One small cut and you don't clean it, that'll get infected, and you can get a disease and an infection and die pretty quickly from it. And what's That's gonna suck very bad if you're a prepper and you store all this food and water and guns and ammunition, but you don't have any medical supplies and you get a little cut and you die from an infection. I mean, that's kind of just like a slap in the face, in my opinion. So having an ample amount of medical supplies is important as well as guns and ammunition. I think it's important. I don't. For me, in my opinion, having 20 guns is nice. It's pretty cool to shoot 20 different kinds of guns, but to me, that's too much money spent on firearms. I mean, I am a gun enthusiast, but I just don't have the money to buy 20 guns and hundreds of thousands of rounds of ammunition. But having a few guns, three, four guns, depending on how big the size of your family is and who can shoot, um, it's important. Especially, I think it's important that you invest in a battle rifle, whether it's an AR-15 or an AK. That'll be very important, as well as ammunition. You're going to need a lot of ammunition to train, and you're going to need ammunition so you can defend yourself. I mean, a gun without ammunition is just an expensive club, and you're going to want a sufficient amount of munitions to be able to defend yourself if, someone gets word a block down that you have food and water and they take 20 guys or 30 guys and they come to your house, you know, you're going to need a little bit of ammunition to fight them off if it comes down to that. But guns and ammo are also important. Um, Light and heat source, I put those together because you can get a propane stove and a propane heater, and those are your light and heat sources, um, and cooking sources as well, or a propane heater, and you know I like the I bought a Ozark Trail propane grill, and I like it a lot. I've used it quite a few times, and it works fine with me. Um, but it's important that you have a heat source because without a heat source, especially in the winter in the north up here, you could die very easily from freezing to death when it gets extremely cold, and you're going to need a way to keep yourself warm. And blankets only go so far, you know. So having whether it's a wood stove or a propane heater, you need some way to keep warm. Um, I stock a lot of candles because I just like candles for I go to the dollar store and you can get one of these huge those Roman Catholic kind of candles for like $1, and they'll burn for quite a while. And light is definitely a morale booster, especially in pitch black darkness. It can raise your morale and make you a lot happier than sitting in complete darkness and and being scared, and especially if a disaster, at least. And I'll admit it, I'll probably be scared, especially if it's complete dark out there and I don't have any candles. It's gonna be scary. But next is small to medium sized tools and clothes is what I is a toss up for me. They're both important, which I don't hear a lot of people talk about clothing, like um, a couple size smaller than what you wear now, because you know you're going to want to blend in with other people if you make contact or with other people, or you have to go outside and there's other people there, which I'm going to do another video on as well. But having extra clothes, because they will rip and tear, and if you can't go buy new ones, if there's a disaster and it lasts like a year or two and you can't buy new clothes, that's not going to be very fun. Um, so having extra clothes, underwear, socks, shirts, pants, are important, as well as medium sized to small tools. I didn't add excuse me, large tools, because usually they need a outlet for a power source or gas. But like drills and um, screwdrivers and screws and nails to make minor little you know fixes and especially for me, I plan on barricading my door and windows. Sorry, I mixed that up. Uh, on the onset of an EMP or an economic collapse, to as a way of a security measure for me. And you're gonna need a power drill and some nails and some screws and some wood. Um, but without those, that's one less added to security bonus to your security of your home or your shelter or wherever you're at that you plan on going during whatever kind of disaster. And lastly, I wanted to talk real quick. My my friends, I've gotten a couple of friends into prepping um, the past like year, and almost all of them have gone straight to guns and ammo without getting any food or water first, which to me is just so dumb because you can have all the guns and ammunition you want, but if you're dehydrating and you die of dehydration 3 days after something happens and the taps on your sink stop working, you're gonna die. And if you do somehow manage to survive, you're not gonna survive very much longer after that, especially if you don't have any food. Like they've had tens of thousands of rounds of ammunition and tens 15 guns, but yet they only have a day or two worth of water, which is idiotic in my opinion, which is a harsh word to use, I guess, but I take this very seriously. But anyway, if you like the video, subscribe, share, comment, but don't forget, without sacrifice, there could be no victory.